Hello and welcome to Adventures in Theater History, where we bring you the best stories from the deep and fascinating history of theater in the city of Philadelphia. I'm your host, Peter Schmitz, and our theme music is by Christopher Mark Colucci. It is especially fitting that I should mention Chris's name here, in fact, because in his capacity as a hardworking Philadelphia sound designer, Chris has spent a lot of time over the years during innumerable tech rehearsals side by side with our two interview subjects for this episode, which I have decided to call Blanka and Pat's Excellent Adventure. Our first interviewee, Blanka Zizka, hardly needs any introduction after we have heavily covered her life and work over the last 3 episodes of the podcast. But I should mention, perhaps, in addition, that in 2011, Blanka received the Zelda Fitzhandler Award from the Stage Directors and Choreographers Foundation, and in 2016, she was honored by the Vilsec Foundation, which recognizes the life achievement of foreign-born Americans. Blanka is now the Artistic Director Emeritus of the Wilma Theater. And the other special guest in this conversation today, Patreshettarlini Adams, has been the resident stage manager at the Wilma Theater since 1996, running rehearsals and calling cues for over 100 productions. In 2020, she was the recipient of the Del Hughes Award for Lifetime Achievement in the Art of Stage Management. Pat has also worked with the Crossroads Theater Company in New Brunswick, Freedom Theater in Philadelphia, New Victory Theater in New York, Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., and she recently stage managed A Raisin in the Sun at the Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival in Center Valley. I talked to Pat and Blanka over Zoom in mid-August 2025. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to have as my guest on the podcast two of the most delightful figures in Philadelphia theater and in Philadelphia theater history, Blanka Zizka and Patreshettarlini Adams. Did I say that right, Pat?
That was good, Peter.
Yes,
Thank
your name
you.
is so beautiful. I know your mother gave it to you at your birth. You told me once the whole story. It all had to do with the number of letters in the name and what she was dreaming about. And it's such a beautiful name. And I love it when they print it out in full in newspapers. But I know that generally people know you as Ms. Pat. So I'll just keep with that. Ms. Pat is a wonderful way to talk to you. But welcome, both of you, Pat and Blanka. Welcome to Adventures in Theater History.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Blanka, in the podcast overall story about the Wilma, we've been talking about you for the past 3 episodes. I broke off the story in about the year 2000. The company had just recently moved into the theater space on South Broad Street in Spruce. You had just directed Stoppard's The Invention of Love, but I had left almost totally unmentioned in that episode a very significant event that had happened 4 years previously. The arrival back in 1996 of a new stage manager with the company to work with Yeti, I believe, originally on a production of Tom Stoppard's Arcadia.
Correct.
Blanka, do you remember when you first met Pat?
Yeah, I do remember exactly the day and the moment that she walked in. It was during I think around 11 o'clock or a break, I think somewhere like lunch break, right? Because you went from New Jersey
Yes.
Yeah. And, she went to school with our production manager, Neil Kuttner, Pat did. And
At Indiana University of Pennsylvania.
Correct.
Yeah. And Neil recommended her. So that's how we met. She came for the interview. And both Yuri and I were very impressed. And I was really impressed because she had a stopwatch around her neck, hanging on her neck during the whole interview. Because she had to be back in New Jersey on time.
Yes, that's the thing. I came in.
She was basically in her professional outfit.
Yes, right, because I had to, once I left them, I had to get back on the train and get back to Crossroads because I had a show.
What show were you doing?
That evening. Oh, man, don't make me lie.
Oh.
I'm trying, because I'm thinking about this whole thing, and I'm like, it had to be the coming of the hurricane, because this had to be October.
Right.
Right, Blanka? It's either September or October of 1996.
You started in November. You started right away. We went,
Right.
let's do it.
The joke is, or the thing is, Neil had called me several times before asking me to come and work for him, is how he would put it. And I would always say, no, we went to school together. I'm not coming to work for you.
Right. And this is over the past 8 years at that point,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
yes.
Right.
But this time, the call was a little bit different. He didn't call and say, I need you to come work for me. He called and said, I need a favor. I need a favor from my friend. And I was like, what? What's going on? We're about to start the rehearsal for the first show, and we've lost our stage manager. We're in a brand new building, and Crossroads had, 2 years previous, opened a brand new building from the ground up.
Right.
He said, so you've done this. I
I
need a
see.
favor. I need my friend. And I went, oh boy, let me see. I don't know. I can't promise. Let me check schedules because this is very different.
And you had a son that you were
Oh,
raising
yes.
in New Jersey. It was in
Oh,
high school in
yes.
New Jersey, and you were a single
Yes.
mom. So this was a big deal. You had to
Yes. Because
commute to
I would be
Philly.
commuting from New Jersey. Nobody wants to do that, really.
Right.
It's just that thing. However, he's my friend, and there was space. There was time. I didn't have to do the next show at Crossroads. There was time to get another stage manager, and my mom was still in Philadelphia, so I'm like,
Right.
things happen for a reason. And so I'm just gonna try it because I remember coming to see a play at the old Wilma on Sansom Street. A friend of mine at the time, Michael Thomas, was running sound for the Wilma, and he said, whenever you come home, come see the play at this theater I'm working at. You'll like it.
Because
Eh,
you,
you
you're
know,
you're from Philly. You had grown up.
yes,
You were
I
born in
grew
South Carolina, but you grew up in Philadelphia.
correct.
And so this was coming home. And while you're home one day, says, you got to come see you like theater. Come and see this show
Yes,
here.
exactly.
Okay.
So I came to see the Hairy Ape, not knowing anything about the Wilma or Blanka or Yuri. I just came to see this play to support my friend Michael. And lo and behold, I was blown away. There, somewhere in my house, there's a diary where I still have the ticket stub, I still have my playbill, and what I wrote was, wow, this is the kind of theater I want to work at. It's in my diary.
What was it that you remember specifically about the Hairy Ape?
It was so visceral. I felt like I was in that steam room with those men in that boiler room of that ship. I felt like I was right beside them. I could see the sweat. I had never experienced theater in such a way that made me feel so included in everything that was happening. It's just that impression. And fast forward to 1996, and it was like, wow, I'll get a chance to work there and really see, okay, new building, okay, we'll see how all that works. And lo and behold, the first show in the new building was not directed by Blanka. It
Oh,
was directed by Yuri, which is good, which is good. It
right,
was my first Stoppard play. I knew of Tom Stoppard. I'd never worked on a Stoppard play before.
right.
It was so much fun. The script was beautiful. The story, that the
Yes.
being in this space with these actors and everything just felt so good. And I'm like, this is great. Except the commute from New Jersey was like the worst thing I'd ever had to do in my entire life. Oh God, it was awful because I had to take 2 trains to get
Right.
here. Like you said, my son was in high school. So we would get up together in the morning. We would have breakfast. He would leave for school, I would leave for the train. By the time I got home at night, he was in bed. We would talk at the dinner break. He would be home from school, so we would talk on the phone. So I would make sure that he was in the apartment, had gotten himself something to eat, doing his homework, all those kinds of things. But it was just not right. But single parent, so you do the things you have to do
Well, now,
in order
Blanca,
to get going.
when probably Pat was talking about this at the time, this is what I'm going through, and you must have been able to relate because you had also not a single mom, but you had been raising a son previously yourself, and you must have been able to say like, "Hey, I've been there."
It was very different because I dragged my son with me everywhere. So he was, at the age of 5, he would be like walking around singing things like "Christians awake, wind is gone from Mother Courage," right? So there was a little bit different situation that Pat had. I think she would have preferred to have him around there, as I did.
Sure.
So yeah, but yeah, that was tricky.
Right.
Yeah.
So you see her working with Yidi, and she'd only been hired for that one show. Is that correct? Or did you always have an idea that we need somebody to come? Or you said, I want her to work with me too, because you had a production coming up.
Yeah, I think there was no question about her continuing, from our perspective, because Pat, um, I I don't think, Wilma would be what it is without her being next to us, next to me and Yuri. She, at least working with her, I felt I had like an amazing soulmate there because she has been there understanding what I was going after. We talked about things together. I said also, we talked about design, we talked about actors, we talked about what we needed to get to, how to schedule the things that we need to achieve. And but one of the best possible things was and has been always the fact that we feel the rhythm together.
Mm.
So
What do you mean by that? You feel the rhythm together.
I feel that, theater is music,
Yeah.
and we feel the
Pat's nodding her
music.
head as you say this. Okay.
Feel it, we feel the music together. So for her to call the cues, for me, it was very important that it's not half a second late or a quarter of a second too early. There is a rhythm in everything.
Hmm. Hmm.
And, she doesn't make mistakes. She is like with me. She is in there. We are together on this. It's pretty
Mhm.
amazing. Not just that, organization, like how she organizes the rehearsals and what has to be done. I'm messy. Um, and Pat is messy too a little bit. When you
Mhm.
see her office, it's about as messy as mine, but
Organized chaos.
Yes,
she
yes.
she she organizes the chaos really beautifully. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Pat, I know we're in the room with Blanca now. But you came to work with Yiri. So, what was it like to work with Yiri to begin with? And then tell me about switching from that to work with Blanca.
Oh, yes. Two very different people, two very different ways of thinking. I always felt with Yuri, I always felt like that he knew exactly what he wanted. He already had the picture in his head, and it was up to us to fulfill what that was. Sometimes we succeeded, and sometimes we didn't get quite where he wanted us to be, but that's theater
Right.
and that's live theater. So I always felt that need to make sure we had laid out what he wanted to try and get done that day and try our best to manage the time to get through the things that he felt we had to get done that day. So very, very, very structured, very, these are the goals, very at the end of the day, did we get there? All right, so we need to do this again. All right, that was okay. We'll move forward to this, that kind of thing. With Blanca, there was more conversation about what should we do? What is best for us today? How does it feel? Where are we in real time versus where are we within the time of the script itself? Because you have what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to rehearse. So you want to get through it all, but you also want to have some time to explore and discover. And that's really tricky. Some directors do it really well, some directors don't.
Right. So that's
Um,
two very different ways of working. But and you had previously worked at Crossroads, but that wasn't a was that just they just had a single artistic director there, right? At the time?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So,
So
and whom
it was a lot of guest directors.
right.
Ricardo would always do a show, but
Yeah.
then it would be guest directors
So that's
for
and
the
that's
rest.
typical. That was typical of
Yes.
nonprofit theaters and of regional theaters. That's absolutely standard. But coming into this two director model, where they do typically four shows, Blanca
Hmm.
does two, Yidi does two.
Hmm.
What did that feel like to enter into this unique organizational structure as a stage manager?
Well, for me personally, it was less stressful because it was two people.
Right.
And once I got to know each of them in their own rhythm, it was pretty easy to know what to prepare and how to prepare. Yuri works this way, Blanca works this way. I'm going to do this for him and this for her. It's just how it is because I was taught that you look at the individual as they are Yes,
Right.
they are both directors, but they are not the same person. So they are not going to do things or approach things the same way. So I can't try to make them do things in a particular way. I try to flow with them as best as possible.
So, Blanca, what is your favorite story about what it was like during work on rehearsals with Pat, especially in those early years? If you had to say, "Oh, that time she did this," does anything spring to? I just this is what it was. I knew that I wanted to work with her forever because when she did this, and you told us about the stopwatch she was wearing, but something that was happening in the rehearsal room.
Oh, I think the rehearsal room is always like very concentrated, but I think later on, as we started to work on developing the company, Pat has participated in all the exercises and in the work with the company.
The Hot House
We,
Company,
we
yes.
yeah, we wanted to have everybody who was in the room to actually participate, to know it through their bodies, and
Hmm.
loved it. Pat was very, very so she knows it. So when I'm talking about it, I have a shortcut with actors now. She knows exactly where I am and where the actors are because she knows it through her experience. But I think our like best parts of like was actually outside of the rehearsal, I would say, because we were both like really dedicated dancers, and our opening night parties were just going up to 4 o'clock in the morning, and Pat and I
Mhm.
were always the last one
Yep.
dancing.
Yep.
And sometimes we would go at 4 o'clock in the morning to like remember Avenue X.
Yes. And that's what I was thinking about. Avenue X is one of
That
my
was our first one.
fondest
That was our
memories.
first coming together, right?
Hmm.
So Avenue X
Opening
is the
night
musical
party.
about the Brooklyn singing group that you guys produced. What year was that? Was that
It was like
That
right,
was our first show together.
yeah. So
really?
that was 1997
Yeah.
because
Yep. The
Wow.
spring of
yeah,
97. Yes.
yeah.
Yes, I see that. Yeah, after you did Arcadia, you did
Yep.
Avenue X,
Yep.
and then the ruling class, and then Quills. So that
And
I
was
we
did
your
did
not do
first.
the
that. We
ruling
had
Oh,
class.
that's
real.
right.
That is one that I did not do.
Right, Pat, because you at one point you said I can't my son is not doing well back in high school.
Yes.
I can't keep up this commute.
Yes, that is correct.
So you said
I
you
I
dropped
had
out,
to say no.
right?
It killed me, but I
Right.
had to say no
So that
because
was
he brought home a D. My son had never
right.
brought home lower than a B the entire time he was in school.
I
And
see.
he brought home a D, and all I could think of was this is because he thinks there's no supervision.
Mm.
You know what I mean? He was 15 at the time.
Well,
I'm like,
yeah.
oh, he just, yes, oh, she's not here. I could do whatever I want. And I just I could not justify me not finishing my job as a parent.
Right. That
So
was
I declined the ruling class. And all I kept thinking was, this is just, wow, that was a really good, and it's okay. Things happen for a reason. But the beauty of it is, I got a call from Blanca talking to me about quills. And if it was possible, if I could see my way to possibly coming back to do, it's the last show of the season, she would be directing, and all I could think of was, this is my chance. If I don't take this chance, I'm going to regret this. And I threatened my son within an inch of his life, and I told her yes, and
right.
I did that ugh, life-sucking commute again
Right.
for Quill. But again, it was so much fun working on that show. Oh my God.
What's
We
your
had
number?
so much fun
Why was Quill so
because it
much
was
fun?
just fantastical.
Yeah.
The whole,
The
so the two-story set.
Jerry
Uh,
Rojo.
Jerry wrote, yes, the
Who was
late,
the scene
great,
designer?
amazing scene designer,
Right.
Jerry Rojo.
Mhm.
Love that man. But all of the things, all of the visual things encompassed within that show, the fantastical things for the Marquis de Sade. What's beautiful about theater is you can really let your imagination just run the
Pat, it
gamut.
was a really thorough research. I found it in some kind of a medieval drawing. It was like, I think, four penises in one.
Yes, 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 yes. And it was that thing of We have to do this. Oh God, we're going to be in so much trouble. We have
For,
to do this. It's going to
you
be
did it for
great.
you did it for the devil, for the devil.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Was
yes.
wearing that on his head? Yeah.
No.
No.
No,
Oh,
no,
no.
no.
Belongs.
It was anatomically where it's supposed to
Oh,
be,
I see. I see. Except for.
but it was amazing. The thing with the remember, oh my God, Tech trying to figure out how to time the smoke coming out of the mouth of the gargoyles.
Oh my God, I don't remember it anymore even.
It's just that thing of wanting things to be so precise because the more precise they are, the better the production is going to be. But the getting there, we're pulling our hair out, but
Yeah.
inside that if we can get this right, if we can make this work, man, is this going to be good.
And you'll say, we'll laugh about this later. And now this is the time you can laugh about it. Here is the
Yes,
moment. Now
yes.
we can laugh about how hard it was to get the smoke out
Oh my
and
Well,
gosh.
the
this is
deadline
the thing about Pat, but I think in general, kind of with the designers too, that there was this kind of really love for work at the Wilma,
Yeah.
that we didn't really mind the time and the hours and the intensity. We loved it.
Hmm.
And it kind of created camaraderie and such beauty being in the room, even though we were tired as hell,
Mhm.
Right.
right?
Right.
But there was just something like giving some birth to something, and it's always a difficult birth. But
Hmm.
boy, when it takes off, when it gives
Yes.
that life going, we were
Oh
so
my God.
happy and celebrating. That's why
Hmm.
the parties, opening night parties, were so
Was
wow.
so great. Yes, indeed. Because the true celebration of the thing, the celebration of the people, of the talent, of the work, the liberation of the moment of we did it. We
Yeah.
got here. And man, it's pretty good.
So Blanca, you then that's the end of the first season. You asked then Pat to come back to be your full-time stage manager. Pat, you got a call from your friend Neil again, right? Was
Yep.
that? And what did he
Sure
say?
did. And
Yeah.
he said, it was such a sweet conversation. He said, so I'm calling you to offer you next season at the Wilma. And I was like, oh my God, they want me to come back and do another show. I was like, wow. I don't know. What are you guys thinking? I mean, sure, I'd love to come back and do a show. And he went, you're not listening to me. I said, what are you talking about? You just said you want me to come back and do a show. He said, I'm calling to offer you next season. That's all the shows. And I, I, are you serious? He's like, that's Blanca and Yuri have asked me to call you to offer you all the shows.
And how rare was that as a working stage manager to have like a full season handed to you saying you have steady work, we're committing to you, you're our person. How rare was that?
Well, for me, because I'd only been at Crossroads, I didn't know that theaters actually did that. That theaters actually offered seasonal contracts to stage managers that weren't working in rep. If it's a theater working in rep, then you get it because you need the same stage manager for however many shows you. That made sense to me. But for a theater that was just doing four main stage productions, to offer all four productions at the same time to one stage manager, that was new for me. And I said yes. And then I was like, how am I going to do that? Because I knew that there was no way I could make that commute again. And so I called my mom and talked to her, and I just said, okay, we're moving to Philly. I still had to tell my teenage son, but
Right.
inside of me, I knew that it was the thing to do. So, you know, and he didn't think it was a great idea at first, because of course he didn't. He was a teenager, and
Mhm.
it was a big move. It was a really
Sure.
big move. But again, our thing as single parent and child has always been you have to trust me. You have to know that whatever I do, whatever decision I make for the both of us. And it was the right decision to make. We moved to
So
Philadelphia, and the rest is happy history for us.
right. Well, so Blanca, that brings me to something I wanted to ask you about. It may not be about this exact point in the story that we've reached, but I noticed in your interview with Linda Weiner, you mentioned that at some point you had considered becoming a New York director and having more of a profile in New York. But that you had decided not to. Was that before Pat arrived or was that after?
Well, after the invention of love, I got a lot of offers in directing outside of Philadelphia. And it was a question for me of doing it or being at the Wilma. And I
Mm.
chose to stay and focus on Philadelphia and on the Wilma Theater because I cannot imagine that you can do both well. You know, that it's too much because you are still, even if you leave and work somewhere else, you are still artistic director of the theater.
Mm.
And I also felt like we were so working hard to create the best possible conditions in our theater and going to other theaters when they will tell you, oh, we cannot do this, or we cannot do that, or we cannot, and you have to do it in this short time. I just didn't need that. I was like really working on creating the best possible conditions for the artists to work at the Wilma. And that was my focus.
Right. So both of you, about this time, made the conscious decision that this is the city, this is the theater community I'm going to engage with professionally. This is where I want to be. This
Yes.
is where my work is.
Yes.
And what, Pat, you were from Philly, but you didn't know the Philadelphia theater community as well as
Oh, not
Blanka did
really.
by
No, no,
that
no.
point. Yeah.
Because
What
one of
did
the
you
things
discover about it?
I never even really found theater until I went to college. I'm not one of those kids that did theater as a child or anything. I didn't find theater until I got to college. But what I learned in college is that theater people are absolutely amazing and wonderful. I had my child when I was in college, and the theater department was they were the group of people who I felt did not judge me. They were the group of people who opened their arms to us first and helped me to raise that child. So going to Crossroads first, I think was beautiful for me growing up into theater. The things I learned by being at a theater run by Black people was really helpful for me personally. And then it was time for me to actually step out and do that thing I realized I was here to do. And the Wilma was the space for me to do that in. I love the Philadelphia theater community. I think we are an amazing bunch of people who actually truly look out for each other. That means something to me to be a part of that. The fact that within this scope of work, Blanca realized that there are people right here in Philadelphia who want to work in Philadelphia, who want to raise families in Philadelphia, who want to stay in Philadelphia instead of being made to feel that in order to succeed, they have to go to California or New York or someplace else. And in realizing that, she found a way to create a space for them to actually do that thing, to be here, stay here, raise families here. And she created the Hot House Company. And I am so excited for that because I was there to see all of that and I see all of them and I watch them work.
Well,
And
Blanca,
I,
did you have that feeling that by about 2000, let's say we're at that point of the story, that you had been there for the past 20 years, you had helped create this community. You had been one of the central leaders of the over the past 2 decades, and that you sort of felt like this is the world I've created. How can I leave it?
Yes, but also by moving into the new theater, we were a little bit, we got caught at one point in the kind of the business of the theater, subscriptions and donors and in terms of work and actors, we were also caught in that idea of bringing actors from New York as well. So at one point we had also agent or casting director, and we were going, the casting director was, getting submissions from agents, and we were going through that business. And that is when I got into a crisis. I actually had to go against the wall almost and decided I don't want to have two people between me and the actor. who are negotiating. I have to write a little description of what the character is. Well, I don't know even who I am. I'm going to describe what the character is in 2 sentences so I can get people, to come to audition. That means that I'm going to get people to auditions only who look like those 2 sentences rather than great actors, right? And I feel like I need to change it. I didn't want to continue like offering roles to people that I met in 20-minute long audition or a callback, a second callback, and decide I will work with them now for the next 4 weeks or 5 weeks to produce this work, and realize that they are not interested even in it. They are doing it only, I don't know for what reason. They didn't get a job in film or on Broadway or off Broadway in New York, and now they have to go to Philadelphia, right? And so there is no joy in a necessarily, not always, I'm like maybe exaggerating, but that was the crisis for me when I realized that I didn't want to be caught in this model any longer. And that was, that started around, I think it started with language. That's the language room was the play that brought it all to kind of to the head-on decision, making a decision about it.
That was 2009, 2010.
There it is. Yes. I was like, it's after rock and roll. I know that.
Right. No, I remember because that was about the time when I first started working at the Wilma, and I remember meeting you in the lobby. Blanka, you had just come from a board meeting, and you were like, I'm not going to do this like this anymore. this has to change. And I didn't know what you were talking about, but obviously you had had a very strong experience, and you were convinced that this needed to be different. Before we get all the way to 2010 and the beginning of the Hot House Company, let's go back just a little bit to talk about the first decade of the 2000s. I just have the names of some shows. I think these are all ones that you worked on, Blanka, but forgive me if I got any wrong. But first, just to get memories from both of you, what you remember. First is The Invention of Love in 2000, the Tom Stoppard play. I've heard so many people tell me about that one. Pat, what do you remember about The Invention of Love?
Oh my God. It was amazing because we had a flying boat, Peter.
Everybody mentions that boat, and I don't know how you did it.
Foy,
Flying
professionals,
by Foy came and worked.
Yes, flying by Foy.
All right, so you had a cable that ran.
We had a flying boat.
Yeah, over the audience. Yeah, not over the stage.
Yes, exactly. The boat came in from back of the house, above the audience, all the way down to the stage.
From the catwalk down to the stage.
So I was telling the set designer that that this is like a dream, and dreams, in my opinion or in my experience, come at me from other space. They are coming at me, and so I wanted this boat to be coming at Houseman, who is like this little person, like he's dying. He is in this black space. Everything was covered by black fabric. And the boat is flying from the back of the audience, from the balcony, basically, over the audience's head to him. So that was the visual idea. And I could not believe that we have actually achieved it.
Yeah,
Pat, when you heard as a stage manager, okay, you need to organize this. We need to set up this cue. What was that cue like? Boat go?
Oh, please.
Whereas the parent had to get into the boat.
Right. Because we had to put a person in there. That's A. You have to put a person in there. And then you have, Invention of Love is one of those plays. Invention of Love and Angels in America. I would pray before the beginning of every performance.
And you don't say that lightly. You're a person of great faith. We know.
No, this was no joke. This was no joke. No joke. I prayed because, Lord, please don't let anything happen to these people while we are flying them. What are we doing? Who do we think we are? But for me, those are the moments that truly show the magic of theater, and probably I don't know if I called it boat, or I might have said the character name. I'd have to go back and find
Mm,
the prompt book to find out exactly what I said
right.
for the cue, but that was a big one because we would go dark, and you would start it so that as lights are coming up, it's already moving. And that's always the scary part.
Right.
Starting any kind of cue where things are moving in the dark is
Right.
always really, because you're kind of hoping that everybody's where they're actually supposed to be, so everybody's safe. But the excitement of the whole thing is something that you can't deny. Because when people realized what was happening, that that boat was actually coming in above them down to the stage, the gas from the audience is it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And the fact that it did that, and guess what? It has to go back
Oh.
because it can't stay on stage.
It
Right.
went up and it went upstage. It went through that wall, if you remember. But
Yeah.
at the same time, what happened was there was like Karen comes, like lands, and Houseman gets into the boat. But before they take off, there's another red boat that was going diagonally in a slit, like maybe about 10 feet high or 12 feet high in the in the wall.
Hmm.
It's a red boat, and there are 3 boys, and Houseman is one of those 3 young boys, but he doesn't recognize himself. He recognized the man that he was, the boy that he was in love with. And this whole first line of his is this cry, more. And it's like still in love at the age of 88, still feeling it. It's just so beautiful.
We got flying boat, you got
Right.
rolling boat, we've got the
fabric.
big head, the big head
And Lenny has
playing a cello
on top of the
on
head.
top of the big fiberglass head. And
Oh man.
I don't talk about the black fabric, Blanka, because the black fabric just I almost gave me a stroke. So of course to be a river, have this whole pool of darkness, the whole set was covered in black fabric
Right.
at the top. The black fabric has to disappear so that you can now see the rest of the set. The black fabric. And you don't want to see anybody coming on stage to remove it, so it has to magically disappear. That means stagehands are pulling this fabric pulling it straight up stage, so it would get caught on something and then would rip, and it was just the excitement of it all.
How about I Am My Own Wife? Speaking of Doug, so we're back to the author of Quills, Doug again,
Mhm.
and but now he's doing I Am My Own Wife, and was a play that began its process or at the Wilma. It was worked on in many different theater companies.
Doug Wright was in residence with us
Right.
for about a year. So he was a playwright in residence. I guess it was a TCG grant. So he started to work on it at the Wilma. Yeah. Now he started to work on it, I think, at Sundance, but he used Wilma to further develop it.
And then it came for a production in 2005. So tell me about what was it like to work on that show? Because by that point, it had been done many other places, and you're recreating it.
Right.
What did the Wilma do?
I heard a lot from Doug about how he was working on it and how he had no idea, how it's going to end up. At one point he was thinking there were a lot big cast, and then it ended up being one-man show. But we did it with 2 people at
Yes.
Wilma.
Right. That was your
Yes.
innovation, to make it a 2-character
Yes.
show. Why did you feel it had to be a 2-character show?
So coming from the Eastern Europe, I kind of felt that the duality of the older German character and the young, naive American was interesting to me, as there was a dialogue between them, between almost a way of living. It was a history of these countries shape us, shape human beings, right? So I was interested in that dialogue. I'm not quite sure it was completely successful. It was so surely different, and it maybe lost a little bit of the energy that one person brings into it by inhabiting all these characters by himself. But it was worth for me to try it.
Okay. What
Because
about
I've seen all these other versions before, so I didn't want to do it the same way.
No, it's great. And for me, the thing is with as a one-man show, the theatricality of it is just it's bar none. It's just amazing that one human being can do all those things. But
Right.
as a two-person show, for me, it made the story more accessible
Hmm.
because I could now actually hear more of the story because I've got this character who is trying to discover and decipher all of these things. So
Right.
I can identify with the reporter because I'm trying to discover what he's trying to discover.
Right.
And you still get the theatricality because the other person is still playing all of these other people.
Right.
So I
So how much are you two talking about this with each other in the rehearsal room? Are you having conversations with each other, sort of as
Always
collaborators?
do. Yeah, we
Yeah.
oh
always
yeah,
do. Yeah.
during rehearsal after
Like,
a
yeah,
lot after rehearsal.
after the rehearsal, we spend like, talking about what went wrong in the rehearsal, what we need to like get, and it's about actually the work, the art itself. It's about how do we get, like, maybe an actor is missing where I want to get him. And Pat and I talked about, what to do next, what is the best approach. Or even with the text sometimes, when
Yeah.
we are on a
Yeah.
new play, we go through it a lot of
That
times.
sounds to me like I've seen lots of directors and stage managers work together, and usually the conversations are fairly, basic. That we need to have this technical aspect thing. This is yours. Please handle the actors. Here's the schedule. What's the schedule for tomorrow? But you two are having a collaboration that exceeds that. Did you also have that relationship with Yuri, or was it different when you were working on a Yuri show?
It's slightly different. A little, the more we worked together, I think he started to trust me as time went on. And so there were times when we had conversations or times when I would ask him very specific questions about what I was looking at. So there was something, but nothing to the depth at which Blanka and I will have a conversation about a script or a particular scene or something happening in a scene. And, I can say to Blanka, is that working for you? Does that feel good? I'm not sure about this moment. I mean, I saw it, I watched it, I get it, but that doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And we will talk about it.
Right.
That's not something I would ever say to Yuri.
Sarah Rule's Eurydice, 2008.
Hmm.
What was now? You're smiling, Pat, and you're holding your heart. So that must have been a wonderful experience for you. Why was that like that?
Eurydice, no. I mean, yes, but the thing about
It
Eurydice
was so
for
complicated.
us, yes, first preview, we did the show, and so when they all go down to purgatory, everything was dark, everything was black balloons, black set, everything is black. We did the first preview, and audience goes, and we sit down for the notes, and Blanca's just sitting there. And we're all like, okay, so I don't think that was pretty good. I mean, we know what we need to work on, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, no, it's wrong. It's wrong. And we're like, what do you mean wrong? What are you talking about? And she's like, it's, and she said, I did it. I said it. It's my fault, but it's not right. It should not be black. It should not be black. And we're all like, well,
It's the balloons.
okay. Right. The balloons. What do you want us to do? It should be red because the devil character had a red tricycle and a red suit on. She's like, and we have all these black balloons and everything is black. It should be red. It should all be red. And I'm like, oh God, who's going to tell the props woman? Because she scoured the city of Philadelphia for every black balloon in every size that you could find. And now we have to tell her, okay, you did really good and that was really great. But actually, what we want are red balloons. And we would like them by tomorrow, because we really need to see them in performance to know that that's actually the right thing. She did it. God bless
Who was this?
Kimitha Cashin.
Thank you.
She
Call out
is
to
a
Kimitha.
miracle worker.
Okay.
Kimitha went to every party city in Philadelphia and bought red balloons. We blew them up. We put them in the show the very next night.
Wow.
And the sigh of relief, the look, you could see it in Blanka's face right away.
Blanka, did you?
Okay.
What was it like to see the red balloons show up
Well,
on the stage?
it gained playfulness, which it needed. You know that you see, even though you are going into underground, it's very much about losses. The play is about losses.
Right. It's about the death of a
Playfulness.
beloved person. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the Orpheus myth. Yeah. And but the fact that Pat and your props people could do that for you, and that must have been very gratifying as a creative artist, rather than you having to throw over tables to say, why can't I get anything done?
Too bad we don't have Jörg here because he would tell us something about Eurydice, right?
Oh, your
Yes.
Cousineau. Yeah, the
Yeah,
videographer.
yeah.
Okay.
No, he was doing the sound for us
Oh,
at
the
the
sound at that
Yes,
time.
that's
Okay.
right.
and
That's
we
right.
had
Yeah.
Toby Twining, who is amazing, and he wrote
Yeah.
the music, but everything, he writes music in this like a his tones, are not. He talks about it's like a sliding elevator going. It doesn't have an octave. It doesn't have tones. Real tones. It's like the sound between the tones is like quarter of the sound. Of the space, and so you have to have people with an amazing ear to sing that. He actually his notations is sometimes in pictures and words because the notes cannot tell what he wants. And so we had like these four amazing musicians.
Yes.
Yes, and cello player, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were singing
Amazing.
throughout it, because to me also talking about music, theater and music, it's like the word comes out of a sound, and sound comes out of emotion. And sometimes music take us way deep underneath the words and creates a subterranean space for the words to come out of. And so the music was like really amazing in this production. But at the moment when Orpheus arrives to underground, there is this like we multiplied it, I think, by 48 times, those voices and a cello. So this is what Jörg was doing in the studio. So we created this chorus of voices that was like moving through the Wilma, through all these different speakers. It was just an amazing moment in the play.
So that leads me to another play that had amazing technical design elements that must have been interesting for both of you, which is Our Class in 2011. The play about the group of young people in Poland, some of them Gentile and some of them Jews, who then have to then end up turning on each other at the moment of the crisis. It would be a very interesting play to direct now, don't you think?
Done in New York finally last year.
Yeah. And I think
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
For a specific reason, I think, because of the situation we're currently in. And that was a play that really was the beginning of the sort of hothouse idea.
Yeah.
A lot of the people working on that ended up in the permanent company. Assembling that company and working on them with the rehearsal room, what do you both recall?
Well, I really felt that this was such a difficult conflict that we were going to talk about. And I somehow felt that we need to find a way of bringing that experience that we don't know really here, living here, to bringing that experience into actors' bodies somehow. And so I thought, well, I myself went to Poland and went to the town of Jedwabne, met the journalists who were writing about it, met the filmmaker who was the first person who created a documentary about Jedwabne. She kind of went there and started to talk to these people. Nobody would tell her anything, but then she started to go to a pub. And after a few beers and few drinks, the guys, that suddenly all these demons, the ghosts from the past were starting to come out. And she said to me, it almost felt like they wanted to confess in front of the camera. So she created this film, and then nobody would show it. No television would show it. So she started to show it in people's apartments. Right. And that was when the anthropologist from Princeton, who was partly Jewish and partially Polish, heard about it and saw it. And then he wrote the book, Our Neighbor. And that book is the beginning of the source for the play. So I kind of took a lot of responsibility. I went there, I talked to people, um, and I wanted to maybe even to get people from Jerzy Grotowski's studio who are still working there to work with my actors because I felt it needs to be, sometimes I feel like the Lee Strasberg method kind of leaves you a little bit just in your head because it's all about memories, and it's like, and I wanted kind of a physical experience, something that you carry in your bones, really, that you are persuasive. So that was the beginning of it. But then I met Jean-René Toussaint here in Philadelphia, who actually studied with Grotowski and also with the Living Theater. So I kind of started to work with him on that. And we created through different workshops, we created actually the cast for it.
And Pat, what was this in? Was there any difference in rehearsal experience for this production that you recall? That there was some different level of involvement there that you had to do? Were you involved in these physical exercises that Blanka was bringing
Yes,
in?
that's the thing. That's where I started being a part of those workshops. It was important to me to understand as much as I could what they would have to do. Um,
Why? Why? Because the stage manager usually is happy to sit at the production desk and watch the actors roll around on the floor, but
I
not
can't
you.
do
Why
that.
not?
Well, because again, that thing that Blanca was saying at the beginning about the rhythm, that each piece has a rhythm to it, and
Uh-huh.
I approach calling a show like music. There's a tempo to everything. There's a rhythm to the words that are spoken. There is a rhythm to the music that's added or not added. And what I'm saying and doing and the things that I am causing to happen with light shifting or sound, whatever, should not upset that rhythm, but flow with that rhythm. So that means I need to understand and feel as much as I can feel with them. If I know how they're breathing, then I know where that light is supposed to start so that it finishes at a certain point. I mean, it was interesting to me. I'd never seen anything like this. I'd never worked like this before. And so I wanted to experience it just because, and then I liked it.
Yeah.
I really appreciated what it was doing, learning that we store everything in our bodies. It's all the things that have happened to us are in our bodies. And so being able to do this, I had some personal revelations of my own. And so I am very appreciative of this whole process because I got to learn hopefully as much as they did, but I can also now walk with them. I know where I can meet them in order to go with them. Because for me, that is part of my job. I can create a safer space if I know where they need to go.
Well, this also happened at just a moment in time, which was another transition for the Wilma, because this was the point where Yuri had fallen ill and was no longer working as a director anymore. So Blanca, you were now taking over the major production, but you were bringing in guest directors.
Yes.
And then Yuri passes away in January 2012, as I
Yeah.
recall. But as you're now moving forward into the future as the sole leader of the company, how much did it mean to you to have not only a group of actors who you know now you can depend upon? You're forming this company, and we call it the Hot House. Remind me why the Hot House was the word that you chose to describe this particular company.
Actually, it was Myra Isaac. Do you know who she is? Like she
I
used to
do
be
not know.
at the Princeton at McCarthy Theater, and now she's
Okay.
like a play producer. She was our consultant, and she was the one who came up. We were like breaking our head over, like, which,
Hmm.
what name? And she came up with the idea, and I liked it. So it was not my, it was the idea of like, we are nurturing the artists,
Mhm.
we are
Yeah.
nurturing, and we are all growing through the process, through working
Right.
with each other. So that was the idea for that.
Okay, but you also had people. Not wasn't just Pat. There were other people who were longstanding members of the staff, but you had Pat beside you to help you through this transition.
Mm.
How did Pat? How did you feel you needed to function perhaps differently during this transition period from?
Um, well, it was a that was a big transition for all of us. And for me, I wanted to be a support for my friend because Blanka was my artistic director, yes, and the person I worked for, yes, but she's also my friend. And this, the loss of Yuri and what that meant artistically was one thing, but it was also a personal loss.
Mhm.
And so I just wanted to make sure that I was present for my friend. And whatever she needed, I was going to be there beside her so that she did not have to feel that anything she needed to do, she had to do by herself. That just wasn't the way it was. She always had somebody beside her so that whatever it was she needed to do, she could do.
In 2020, Pat, you received the Del Hughes Award in a role which doesn't often get acknowledged, doesn't have a set of awards. Even today, you're on you're tomorrow. I know we're talking here in the middle of August 2025, and I know we rescheduled this conversation because you remembered that tomorrow was the announcement for the Barrymore Awards, right? And you're on the board of Theater Philadelphia. You're very involved in that. And I still don't think the theater, they don't have an award for stage management, do they?
No, it's a hard thing to try and decide because
Right,
what's the criteria? Um, the Del Hughes Award is for lifetime achievement as a stage manager, so it's a career
right,
award, and it's a national award. And I
right.
had no idea that they even knew who I was. So it was a very big honor and a very seminal moment in my life to receive that award.
So is it like getting a Nobel Prize that people just call you early in the morning and say, yeah,
It is. That's what
yeah,
it is.
I got an email.
okay.
And I was like, what? The what? The Dell? What is this? Who are you?
But
Oh my
Blanca, I
God.
can
And it's,
see
it's
on,
that thing.
yeah, I can see your eyes are sort of grinning, Bonnet, because you must have been on this. They must have tipped you off that this was coming. They must have interviewed you about it.
Yeah, they told me, yeah, but yeah, it's
Yes.
like they have to be quiet about it until I didn't tell anything to Pat.
Right. So you must have been walking around with like with a little. I've got a little secret about you. You are going to be so happy because she really did by that point. I mean, a remarkable achievement of consistency and involvement with a single theater company for that long a period of time, which she's still doing at this point. I
Yeah.
might point
Yeah.
out. It was an amazing achievement. But you, Blanca, following the pandemic, the horrible pandemic year of 2020, when the you did amazing work. The theater had to eventually go virtual and film several productions, which including Fat Ham, which eventually became a very famous production, and then restaged live quite recently. But in Blanca in 2021, you decided to step down as the head of the company and turn it over to essentially it must be someone, three people have to take over your job, right? A three-headed,
I gained a lot of respect from them, I hear, because
yes,
I had a hard time dealing with it with three of them.
right. But you continue to return and work occasionally. You just came back to work on the play Archduke, which you did this past spring, the play about the three assassins who eventually end up killing the Archduke and starting the whole World War One. And was Pat your stage manager again for that?
For
Yep,
sure.
sure
How
was.
without her?
What was it like having that reunion? Just walking into now, you've been working together for 3 decades. Tell us about it, Pat.
I mean, it's pretty cool. It's Blanca. It's like it was that thing of, we're doing a play and Blanca's going to come and direct it. And the first thing I said was, and it's mine. There's no discussion. There's no, we want to get, no, 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 no. If Blanca's coming, then that's the show that I'm doing. Just because to be back in the room with her, I love being in the room with Blanca. It is always intellectually stimulating. We always laugh out loud. There is such joy in the work that we're doing with the people that we're doing it with. And I'm not going to pass that up. And it was just nice to know that when you've been with a person long enough, even when there's time apart, when you come back together, there is a rhythm that you just pick right back up. Like, you know, you would never separate it. So that was true is true. So that was very, very comforting to me to know that that relationship will always be a real thing for us. So
And Blanka walking into the rehearsal room and then seeing Pat sitting there at the tech table again. What was that feeling like for you?
Well, as I said, I would probably not. I would have a hard time doing anything without Pat. It just like having her in the room is, it's like I feel like we are family now. It's as close as that. I don't say that word too often, but with Pat, I think what really brought us together is the connection to the work and how the theater for us, the kind of how we go after detail and how we want it to be alive and beautiful and strong and visceral.
yeah.
And we collaborate on that together, so it was just fantastic to have her there again.
Well, that's a perfect place, I think, to end our conversation today. It was a lovely moment to end on. So, Pat Adams, Blanka Zizka, thank you so much for coming to this conversation and Adventures in Theater History. This has been something I've been promising my audience for the longest time, and I am so pleased to finally be able to give them this gift of your collaboration and your friendship and your conversation together. Thank you for being a guest here with us today.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
So, wasn't that fantastic? I am so happy to finally get those two together on the podcast after promising to bring them to you for so long now. There's a few other things I need to mention before we sign off. I would like in particular to thank the composer Toby Twining for giving me permission to incorporate selections from his music from the play Eurydice. I would also like to express my gratitude to the sound designer and composer Adam Wernick for sharing with me his amazing music for the Wilma's production of The Invention of Love, particularly that cello solo, which he found deep in his files. But let me share something with you that Adam wrote to me during our correspondence back and forth about this music, about his time at the Wilma. When he was a young composer, just out of the University of Pennsylvania, Adam writes, between 1986 and 2005, I think I worked on more productions at the Wilma than any other designer except perhaps Jerry Forsyth, the lighting designer who was an early and frequent collaborator with both Zizkas. Yiri and Blanka were at the forefront in Philly theater when it came to thinking about music and sound design as art forms that contribute to the overall aesthetic of a production, rather than just something to plug in later. I was lucky to be in the right place at the right time during those years. This is the end of our mini-series of episodes about the Wilma Theater. I could, of course, talk to many more folks who have made amazing and important contributions there and who all no doubt have great stories to tell about its history. The longtime Wilma dramaturg Walter Bilderback comes to mind particularly, a former education director Ann Holmes, too, a former managing director Jamie Haskins, and not to mention all the actors, friends of mine who were in the Hot House Company, and so many, many others. But if I gave them all the time they deserve, pretty soon this would become the Wilma podcast, and I would never get back to my larger mission of telling the complete story of modern Philadelphia area theater history. So next time, instead, I'm going to be talking to the Philadelphia actor Tom Teddy, who has worked at almost every theater company in Philadelphia over the past half-century. Tom can particularly talk to us about the early years of the People's Light and Theater Company in Malvern, Pennsylvania, which is another topic I've been promising to talk about for a very long time now. I'd like to give a final special shout-out to some special people. First to Elias, and also to Bonnie and Jim Lambert. All three of them have recently joined the other people who are supporters of this show on Patreon. And this, of course, entitles these wonderful people to extra bonus episodes and other special posts and privileges. Bonnie and Jim even ordered an extra copy of my book, just so they could add it to the library of the wonderful Antaeus Theater in Glendale, California. Thank you guys so much. I can't tell you how much that means to me. And hey, if you're listening to the show from anywhere near Los Angeles, please check out the work of the Antaeus. I know they're about to mount a production of Cymbeline, set in the American West. In fact, everyone, wherever in the world you are right now, I'm sure you do this already, but in case you need any reminding or encouragement, please support, attend your local theater companies. Go meet each other there. In these fractious and perilous days, nothing does more to foster the values of community and connection with the human race than attending the performing arts. It will bring you joy. All of our contact info and social media sites are in the show notes. Check them out. Thank you for coming along with us on another adventure in theater history, Philadelphia.